Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Well, good morning, everybody. Might be afternoon, might be evening, might be who knows when, but it's morning here. And this is our weekly Off Track podcast. I'm Paul Carruthers, and I'm joined as always by Sean Bice, who's out in Ohio. I'm in Southern California. It's a beautiful summer day. Sean, I'm going to start the podcast. Oh, first of all, let me tell everybody and break the news in case they want to bail now. It's just going to be Sean and I today. This is our We Don't Need No Stinking Guest episode. We do them every once in a while. We haven't done one in a long time. And it's kind of fun for us to just chat a little bit. And yeah, we can talk about some different things and obviously focus on MotoAmerica, but we've also got some other stuff I'm sure that will come up. I wanted to start the podcast with an apology to Sean Bice. You'd have to know Sean really well and either shower with him or go to the same beach that he goes to, or I don't know if he goes to a beach in Ohio, but maybe the swimming pool or something. In order to know that Sean has a Yamaha logo tattoo on his left bicep. It's in the spot normally reserved for like mom or an anchor. And Sean has the Yamaha logo, which is, what are those called, Sean? What are those? The tuning forks?
Yeah, triple tuning forks. Yep.
The tuning forks that the Yamaha uses for their logo. Obviously, they're not just a motorcycle company. They also produce musical. They also make musical instruments, pianos, guitars, all that stuff. So I, in all my infinite wisdom, I don't know where I mean, I didn't make it up. I mean, somebody must have told me somewhere down the line that Sean actually had the incorrect logo on his tattooed on his arm, and that it was the musical. If there was a difference between the music department and the motorcycle department, their logos were somewhat different. Apparently, I don't. So anyway, I somehow, being the rumor monger that I am, spread that to like the other guys in our team not so long ago. And Sean corrected me and said that actually is the correct Yamaha logo. I'm not going to argue with him, but I will tell you that it kind of got me interested in the Yamaha logo and the history of it. So I did a little research this morning, Sean.
Hey, good.
And I'm sure you've researched the crap out of this, but it's kind of interesting. If you look, I mean, this thing goes back to 1898.
Yep.
And the 1898 logo looks like a sonogram of baby in mommy's tummy.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a little odd. And then 1916, it actually starts to take on the tuning forks, and it goes through a bunch of different, alliterations of it. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
And it ends up with, there are two logos though. There's apparently a Yamaha Corporation logo and a Yamaha Motor Co. logo.
Correct.
So you do have the Yamaha Motor Co. logo.
Absolutely, without
question.
You
are correct, and therefore I apologize to you, Sean Bice.
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't even know anything about this until I think you matter-of-factly mentioned it one day, and I was like, "Wait, what? What's?" and I always remember this when Jim Rome, who most people know is a sportscaster, famous for going after Jim Everett that time on ESPN, but he had Evel Knievel on one time, and I remember he asked Evel Knievel, he basically said, why do you jump these bikes? Why did you try to jump the Snake River Canyon? And there was a long pause, and all he said was, "Do you know who the hell I am?" And I say that to my wife once in a while when she asks me, like, why did you do that? And that happens fairly often. And I just look at her and go, do you know who the hell I am? And it's kind of the same thing with the Yamaha logo, not only with the fact that it's Yamaha, but Paul, as well as anybody, I'm absolutely obsessive compulsive about everything in my life. And my God, if I had the wrong logo on my arm, that thing would have been gone. Well, it wouldn't even appeared on my arm. But the funny thing about it is, I've had it on there for a while, and I got it. I mean, I am very fond of that brand, but it's pretty high up on it's actually way up on my shoulder, really high, about where you said a mom or an anchor would go. And I did that on purpose. I always thought, well, it's kind of under my shirt, and I don't go to the beach. I don't go to the pool. I don't take my shirt off. Let me put it that way. And I'll never forget when I got the logo, even with Pam, my wife, it was like a week before, no, it was a couple of weeks, I think, before she even knew I had it, because just when I would, doesn't that sound weird? I mean, we do sleep in the same bed, and I do sleep without a shirt on, but I kept getting in bed, like by having my left shoulder, which is where it is, opposite of where she was. So one day, the funny thing is that she discovered it because one day I got out of the shower and was walking in the bedroom, and she was hiding in the closet. Now, this is what she does. I mean, she was going to jump out of the closet and scare me. Well, she jumps out of the closet to scare me, and before she even got the scare part out of the boo or whatever out of her mouth, she said, "What's that on your shoulder?" So she knew what it was, obviously, but oh yeah, Paul, I mean, that thing is so precise, you wouldn't believe it. When I went to see the lady about the tattoo, I made sure there's actually in the center of the logo, there's actually a hexagonal shape to it. And it just happens to be the way the three tuning forks come together. But I'm so fanatical about that logo that there was a long time where, like, when I would see it, sometimes happens that teams will put not only they'll put the wrong symbol on the bikes, but they also put the wrong logo type, the lettering. The M is different, as you discovered. The descending part of that M in the middle of the logo type, the name Yamaha, doesn't descend all the way to the baseline for the music logo. And the reason, because it's M for music, obviously. And then there's not a real subtle difference on the logo type, the tuning forks that I have, but it's enough so that it just jumps out at me. And teams will get graphics kits or whatever from who, I know for sure Chris Cruzel with Drippin' Wet always gets it right, but there are some teams I'm like, that's not even the right logo. And I see it on a bike or on leathers, and it just, it drives me nuts that they don't have it right. And I'm thinking, well, Paul had a good story. I got in an argument one day with a Harley guy because I didn't think he was using his front brake enough when I saw him in traffic. So at any rate, Paul, I got in a little argument with him, and I went to show him my tattoo, and you had the perfect line about what I probably should have or might have said to the guy. And what was it again?
I don't remember.
Oh, this is where you said, "Hey, you want to see my baby grand?"
Oh, that's right.
And you said that when we were at that ridge, and it's like, it's so funny because it's like the guy, actually, I don't think I did show him my tattoo and say, "Hey, I ride too," and I don't think he even knew what the hell the logo was. But at any rate, I accept your apology, and I can't believe it even came up. And the funny thing is, I don't really show many people the thing, especially now that I'm with MotoAmerica, because one of the things I discovered working with MotoAmerica is I used to be pretty brand loyal, but it isn't about the brand for me anymore. It really, these riders can ride anything, and these teams can work on anything. And I still care about the brands and the motorcycles and like them a lot, but it's really expanded my mind. MotoAmerica's got me to be a fan of just motorcycles in general. And these riders, I used to care who they rode for. Now I don't. Now it's just, the personalities of riders, whoever they ride for. As I say, I love everybody, every rider and every person in the paddock. I love that guy. But it doesn't matter if they're Yamaha or not anymore. It's open. So I'm okay that people think I have the wrong logo on there, because I'm not quite as logo, I guess, loyal as I used to be. But
well, two things come out of this conversation. A, I can't believe you had the balls to get a tattoo without telling your wife. And B, I picked the wrong guy to actually think that he would have the wrong logo. So,
oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's cool. It's good that you have it. I don't have any tattoos, but yeah, it's cool. And anyway, I apologize for having that wrong. So, what do we want to talk about next? You want to talk about MotoAmerica? What do you want to talk about?
Well, two things. I want to talk about, I don't know if our fans or the fans of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice know that a lot of times when we go to our race weekends, we get an Airbnb and we all get together, and it's a little bit like a frat house. But, one of the things I realized, Paul, is, as everybody knows, with you in Southern California and me in Ohio, it really does make a difference when we're together and we're in the same room or whatever. I mean, being face to face, it is better. I mean, no amount of being on our communication system, which is Slack or phone calls or meetings, makes up for face to face type stuff, because it's that idea that, especially with you have an acerbic wit. It's dry. You got to be looking at you sometimes to realize. And sometimes I'm like, damn, I bet you that would be different if I saw him face to face. Because sometimes
it might have actually been funny.
Right. Well, funny, or it's like not quite as cutting as it seemed to be. And it's not. And I know it's so funny how when we get at the end of a day, when we both get tired and we get motivated because we're cranking out these race reports and everything, and you get kind of giddy and also whiny at the same time. Right. So I'm like, damn, I'm glad he's right here with me, because otherwise I'd be like nuts. So I actually have felt that sometimes. You probably even detected that. It's like, if you're not right there and I don't see you, sometimes I don't get your deal. So.
Right. No, and I'm the first to admit, at the end of those Friday and Saturday and Sunday nights, it's been a long day, and I get a little edgy, and like you said, we all start to get a little giddy after a while, which is kind of fun. But
it is fun.
It's all good. But those media centers on those late nights can be. It's funny because somebody always ends up fighting with somebody. It's usually me and Tucker. But if you would just pack his shit up a little quicker, I'd leave him alone. But you know how that goes.
Yeah, so we've got 3 videographers that work together, and we've got you and me, and Brian Jay's always over there processing his billion photos, and he's getting it done, and we continually are amazed at how he is able to do it, because he's been out there all day, and so sometimes I'll sit there and go, man, this is just a absolute struggle from beginning to end, but to see him, it always kind of inspires me, like. He just cranks it out all the time. So, and, other journalists are like that too. I mean, I know that David Swartz has to do a lot with Road Racing World too. So it's like a big family in there. It's a great group, but there's nothing like being face to face. And the interesting thing about, when we were at Ridge Motorsports Park, it's so different for me, and I'm sure for you too, the environment there. But the cool thing is we've got this weekend off, and then we're right back at it at Laguna, which is both one of our favorites for sure. West Coast is weird for me, Paul. I mean, do you have this situation when you come east where for me, when I come back home, it's weird for me for a while. When you travel east and go back west, you're going back in time by 3 hours. But do you get the jet lag going home or coming out?
It's a little bit of both. When I go out that way, usually like the first night, it's hard for me to fall asleep. Yeah. Then I end up staying up so late, it kind of rectifies everything the next day because I'm so tired. Staying out here obviously doesn't have a time change difference to me. So it's a lot easier. And then when I come home from the east, I just have to make sure, like that first night, I don't fall asleep at 8 o'clock or something ridiculous. And then usually I'm okay, but I kind of get used to it. And it just depends how long you're in each place. We're usually there like Wednesday through Monday. Yeah. So, you kind of start to get to the point where you're used to the new one, and then you got to go back to the old one. But shit, it's only 3 hours. I mean, these guys that do, worldwide trips, I mean, those are really difficult when you start going to Australia and things like that. But so we have it pretty good, but it takes a little different. It takes a little getting used to. And when I come home, it takes me, a couple of days to get back to normal.
Yeah. And, you mentioned that about people that go to Australia or whatever, or around the world, where it's a different day when they get there. And it's not quite that way with Danilo Petrucci, but one of the things I talked to him about at Ridge is he had kind of given us an indication that he was going to be going back to Italy a couple times in the beginning of the season, but as the season wore on, he wouldn't be going as much. And he's admitted that he's gone back home more. It's the adjustments a little bit different for him, although he did say between Ridge and Laguna, he's not going to go home. But by the same token, I mean, I think it's interesting that he needs to get that home base thing, and he seems to be quite a bit of a homebody. I mean, that's something we found out about him, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I think his schedule somewhat changed when he got injured at VIR.
Right.
I think that kind of he wanted to go home and get treated by his people and stuff like that. And I think that kind of, that took away whatever possibility he was going to have of staying here after VIR. So I think, some of that's caused him to go home a little bit more than what he originally planned. But I also think, from talking to him, we had him on the podcast,
Yes.
at the Ridge. And again, I recommend anybody who likes podcasts and likes Petrucci and likes motorcycle racing that they give that one a listen, because I thought it was really good, not just because we did it, but because I thought he had a lot to say, and I thought he opened up, and you get a real sense of his personality, and you realize why some of the things that he does, the reason he does them. I mean, he was really open about talking about what makes him tick. So it was good, but yeah, I think going forward, I think he knows that he'd probably be better served if he got comfortable here and stayed here between the races. And it all comes down to where you are and what you got going on. I saw on social media yesterday, he's actually out here in California and was riding motocross at Glen Helen, which I know that's something that he really enjoys. So as long as he doesn't hurt himself, I'm sure that'll make him happy, and he goes into Laguna, refreshed and no jet lag and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's strange. So at the beginning of the year, we met him, talked to him, liked him a lot. Then we had the situation with at VIR, and we were kind of wondering like, what the heck is going on? And then we had him on the podcast, and I think you feel the same way I did. Is he was just a delight on that. And he openly admitted, he gets frustrated sometimes and takes it out on the track. And then there was that situation with Matthew and him, and
Fingergate.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And even amidst that, I don't know if you felt the way I did. I think maybe you did, though. Just in light of what he told us, I felt different about him. Even with that, I thought, okay, I think he realizes that was a mistake. And I also think he's frustrated. And, Max Flinders was probably more upset than Matthew, because he had bent his handlebars, and Max is on such a tight budget. But Matthew almost kind of laughed it off a little bit. I don't really feel like even within Westby Racing or within Matthew Skoltz, Matthew's kind of the one in the bullseye for Petrucci, but I don't really feel like it's a heated thing even between either of them. Even though that was a weird situation, I didn't feel as bad towards him as I did with the whole VIR thing. Were you the same way?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what I think everybody has to realize is like, this is their livelihood, and this is everything to them since they've been little kids. And they're at a point now where they're under a lot of pressure. They're under a lot of pressure to win races. They're under a lot of pressure to win championships. And the thing with Danilo that day was he just had a horrible day, and that was the end of a horrible day. And his bike had broke. He missed half a session. They bring out the other bike. The clutch goes bad. I mean, he's sitting there. I was watching him. I was down by his pit, and he's sitting there, with his helmet and leathers on. Takes them off, puts them on, takes them on, puts them off, and you could just tell like it was just a frustrating day. And then he went out, and I don't know who started it, but it was like he tried to follow Skoltz, or Skoltz tried to follow him, and neither of them were having any of it. And so they pull over, the other guy go by, they pull over. It looked like a Moto3 qualifying session. And then what happened is, Matthew passed him after the checkered flag. And, I would tell Matthew to his face, and I think maybe I have. I mean, he realized, I think, that he's getting inside this guy's head, and he kept pushing and pushing, and he passed him at speed. And I looked at the video, and he's 4 feet away, 5 feet away. It's not the closeness of it. It probably just startled him a little bit, and that combined with all the crap that had just happened to him, it just caused him to react negatively, and everybody saw what he did. And that kind of stuff has been going on since the beginning of time with motorcycle racing, or any kind of racing, or any kind of sporting activity. But the thing is, in this day and age, everybody sees it. if that was 10 years ago on an AMA Superbike race or 15 years ago, no one would have seen it. And one of the guys would have gone to the other guy's pit and said, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. And it would have been the end of it. But now, we have video clips of it. The world has video clips of it. Everybody sees it. Everybody comments about it. And it just turns into something that it's probably a little bigger than what it is for the guys actually involved in it. But, he knows he did wrong. I mean, all of us screw up. But believe me, if I was in the situation he was in, or any of those guys, the pressure they're under, I'd probably freaking implode once a race,
Oh, yeah.
everybody would want to
Totally.
kill me. But
Yeah.
so I think, everybody just has to take a step back and realize what it means to these guys and realize the pressure that they're under, the pressure the teams are under, the manufacturers. It just runs really deep. There's a lot of people involved, from a mechanic to the racer to everybody in between. And these things happen sometimes, and we just kind of got to move on. And, I think it was handled fine. He was docked a couple of positions on the grid, and he got 2 penalty points against his record, and we'll move forward from that and go on. I mean, you have to have a penalty for it because it's not right. But I don't think it's not the end of the world by any means.
Yeah, and here's Danilo Petrucci sitting first place in the Medallia Superbike standings right now with 11 points over this guy named Jake Gagne, who is starting to do Jake Gagne things, has been doing Jake Gagne things, but it just seems like a bit of it's just a matter of time. I mean, he's 11 points back. He was back further than that. He obviously leapfrogged Matthew at the Ridge, and here he is, just feeling like he's going to just take that championship again. Nothing against Petrucci. I'm sure Petrucci agrees and sees him coming too and realizes it. And it's almost like you don't know how to prevent it or something. He's just clicking him off. And the guy is the most chill human being in the world. I don't know how he does it, but it's got to contribute to his ability to do what he does, because he is so calm about everything. But do you think, if you were to predict the end of the season, do you think it's going to be Gagne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, if you go out and again, back to the previous subject, I mean, the other thing is Petrucci sitting in that pit. He's never been to that track before. He's losing track time. And, you look and you see Jake Gagne's a second and a half faster than you.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it's just got to be banging your head up the wall against the wall, because you can just, I think all those guys just knew this was going to come, and now it's here. But if you just go out on the track and watch those guys, Jake is just, saying he's at another level is a little too much. But man, he seems to be just on a little different level. He looks so comfortable. He looks so fast. Everything he does looks good on the motorcycle. He's got good style. And it's funny because I remember way back, I always loved his style, the way he rode. It's kind of like a little bit motocrossy, he's got his elbows out and he's real loose on the bike and stuff. And I've always thought he looked good, but now he looks incredible. And obviously the team works well together. And believe it or not, he's had some issues early in the year. And I don't think it wasn't until WeatherTech that they sorted some things out to get him back to the comfort level he was the year before. My question to him is, why didn't you just leave the bike the way that it was when you win 17 races or what have you?
Right.
But, they're always trying new things to try to actually get faster. I mean, it's not, they can't just rest on their laurels, because he knew everybody else was going to step up. So I think they just tried some things and that didn't work out as well as they thought. But then, they kept working at it, and at WeatherTech, he got the bike to where he was extremely comfortable. And then from there, it's been, he didn't have the best results at WeatherTech because of some different things, but you could see the speed was there. And then obviously it's carried over, and he seems to be well on his way again. And no, it would be very hard to bet against him, not winning this championship. I don't think he's going to do like he did last year, where he just wins the rest of the races. Petrucci's a tough character, and again, he doesn't make many mistakes, and they're working on getting that bike to where he can feel more comfortable on it. And when they do, it would be very easy for him to skip up to that Gagne level.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this before, but that bike is actually quite different than the one last year. It's not the bike that Loris Baz had at all. It's quite a few differences with it. And so, and it's new to Danilo, but new to the team too. But so they've got have had some teething pains with it, but that's obviously a seasoned and very good crew, and his input that he provides is really good too. So you're right, he is going to do some stuff. But the thing this year is, man, the numbers are close together. The championship's pretty tight. Even, Matthew Skoltz went back to third, but he's still in the hunt for sure. Another one I wanted to ask you about, Paul, do you think Cam Peterson's riding the best he's ever ridden this year?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Yeah, I would say he is, but that's a combination of him being on the team that he's on, riding the bike that he's on too. I think it's a comfort level, and I think he's only going to get better. I think he's pretty smart about realizing what his situation is this year. He's not getting in over his head. He's ridden well. He's won a race. He's got several podiums, and he realizes at this point in time, he's probably not Jake Gagne. But I also think in his mind, and that's the way you have to think, is that he thinks he can get to that point. He's just going to take him some more time.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about Jake a couple of years ago. I mean, we knew Jake was a great rider. And in that team and with that bike, I mean, Jake has ascended to, Cameron Bobier level of smoothness and talent and race wins. And it's kind of like, Cam could do that too. And Jake had some issues a couple of years ago. So, I mean, it's certainly a testament to that team, how well they do. And certainly the fact that it's a quasi Yamaha factory team, but Yamaha's still very involved. Some of their people were at Ridge, and there's somebody representative of Yamaha at every one of their rounds. So there's always somebody involved, but it's obviously Richard's team and the stuff that they do is, really good. And we can't say enough, of course, about John Cornwell and what he's done with Jake Gagne, and the fact that John Cornwell is such a good crew chief, aside from being a guy that we've known to be a good racer, as well as an amazing suspension guy too. But I've been really impressed with him over the past couple of years. I know you have too. We did that podcast with him, and one of the best we've ever done. So he does a good job with Jake, and you even see it on Inside MotoAmerica, in Pressure to Rise, I should say, the Pressure to Rise program, that you see him talking, and he's got a lot of insightful things that is fun to watch on there. But it's a good crew chief, and Danilo Petrucci's crew chief's really good too. That Maurizio Perlini, he's
a good guy.
Yeah, really good guy, really kind of very responsive to us, but obviously understands that handling the guy as much as the bike, and that idea of you have to be a people person and a technical guy too. And but all those crew chiefs are kind of that way. I mean, I can say that, Ed Sullivan does a good job with Matthew. I heard something interesting about Matthew Skoltz. So they've got a different data guy there, and I'm not going to cover up the fact that it's Vito Bolognese. He's a really good friend of mine, as you know, Paul, and I know you know him well. He's back in our paddock again. He works for Morelli in Detroit, but he's been involved with Yamaha. He's been with Ducati. He knows most of the guys on the Ducati team. He was with Ducati year before last, worked with that team. Or was it last year? No, it was last year. He worked with them. He was a consultant for them. So he knows what he's doing. And he said something to me. I talked to him after this round, and this is kind of cool, Paul. He said two things to me that I know, but to hear somebody say it is interesting about Matthew. Matthew carries more lean angle than almost anybody he's ever seen race. That's kind of what Vito said. He said his lean angle is crazy. He said his lean angle is crazy, and his kind of on and off the throttle is so abrupt that it's almost like he needs intervention that he didn't have a couple years ago. They didn't have a full suite of electronics, but he relies on that because he gets on and off the throttle very, I guess I would say violently. So that's something that they really need to work with. And I think he trusts his electronics so much that, he's not going to high side that bike, even though he's got it leaned over, doesn't have a lot of tire on the ground. But we see it, right? I mean, sometimes you think it's just because Matthew's so tall and gangly, he looks like he's leaning over far, but it's actually true. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of cool that he told you that stuff. But yeah, I mean, Matthew rides hard, and I think that team does a really good job with what they have. But obviously, I guess I imagine they don't have as much as the Yamaha team, the factory team has. It's you can tell some of those guys in the paddock. It's like I always think of Stamboli with this, but it's like if you gave him $10 to spend on racing, he'd spend 12 if that's what it took to win. And I think there's some guys in the paddock, you give them $10 and they put 5 in their pocket and spend the 5 on the team, and that's, I mean, I think you just got to go into motorcycle racing knowing that it's going to be expensive, knowing guys are going to crash stuff, and that's what it takes to have success. So it's those top teams, they all just do a good job. They just they're all a bit different, and they all have to work differently. They all have different machinery. And back to that Ducati, I think it's one of those things, when you get it right, it's probably unbeatable, but I just think it's a bit fickle.
Right.
You see people that have them or get them, they struggle to get, into that little window where the bike wants to be and where it works the best. And that's what I think the HSBK team is doing now, is trying to get that thing to the point where it's as racy as it should be. And I think at that point, we don't, what Petrucci's capable of. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. So we'll just have to see what happens with it all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And he definitely said that, since he's raced at Laguna, he's looking forward to that track, that it's one he hasn't been. I think he said 2013, he hasn't been there in a while, but at least he knows which way it goes and what it's all about. So, we'll have to look to see where he's at with that. But, another team and a rider, and I was talking to, it sounds like I'm name dropping right now, and maybe I am, but I was talking to Michael Kiley, who's the owner of Tytler Cycle Racing, and man, that guy is all in. I mean, to be from last year, he sponsored basically Larry Pegram Racing, that a Ducati V4R at Road America. This year, I mean, the guy's got two teams. He's got obviously Hector Barbara and PJ Jacobson on the Tytler Cycle Racing team, and then he's part owner of the Tytler Cycle Ride HVMC that has Corey Alexander and why am I losing my mind here? Oh, Travis Wyman, and then also Zach Schumacher, who races Stock 1000 and Superbike Cup. I mean, that's a lot of riders. I mean, the guy, they're really all in, and to see that footprint that they have in the paddock. And Hector is quietly doing his thing, and he's in 5th place. So, he's right up there too. It's a pretty good testament for first year for that team, and new bike, that BMW is a high strung motorcycle too, I guess you could put it that way. So, I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, they're doing really well, and I don't know much about that motorcycle, but I have a feeling maybe it's not high strung. I have a feeling that it's more like in the Yamaha realm of things, where
I think it is.
If you and I went out, that's the thing. If you and I went out and bought an R1, or if you and I went out and bought a Panigale V4R, I think, and we did track days with it, I think we'd instantly go faster on the Yamaha because it would be more comfortable and easier to ride.
Right.
But I think that maybe if we got to the point where we actually knew what we were doing with tuning the motorcycle, maybe at some point we'd be faster on the Ducati. But I think that's kind of how it works. And I haven't ridden BMWs in a long time. But I kind of put them more into the Yamaha category, as far as, at least, when you go buy one, they're pretty smooth and easy to ride.
Well, they're super fast, that's for sure. I think what I'm pointing out more is this fact that they put these electronics on them, and those guys, it's a big task to get the electronics to work right with the bike in that M model, still fairly young anyway. So I think they might, have been working things through with that. But it's funny, we talked to Hayden Gillum a little bit, who's racing in Superbike as well for Disrupt Racing, and is doing real well in Stock 1000. He's got a bike that he basically doesn't have any electronics at all. They kind of turned everything off. Isn't that kind of accurate to what he told us?
Well, at least he turns off the
launch
control stuff, because he's messed it up so many times. He's better off just going old school and turning it off. And it's just different. Like you have a guy like Matthew, for example, with the information that you just told me, And that's a guy that just has grown up basically with motorcycles, with electronics, or at least adjusted to them really well and has the utmost faith. And then you have a guy like Hayden Gillum. You know, he's a dirt tracker, he's this and that, he's kind of old school, and he probably is at his best, you know, with minimal electronics, to be honest.
Yeah. I have to repeat this. This made me laugh. I was talking to him in the paddock over the weekend, and I don't even think I asked him this question, but he kind of gave me this answer like, yeah, you know, I'm married now and I've got a baby. So, you know, he kind of implied like maybe he's not as aggressive as he had been. And then he has that crazy situation in the Stock 1000 race where he almost took, you know, well, he went right across the track, and I know he scared Corey Alexander quite a bit, but they ride close enough together that it worked out okay. But Corey agreed that he thinks he's still kind of going for it. So
yeah, I think what Corey said in the press conference was very accurate. It's like, you know, when you're in the situation that Hayden's in, or any new father, or any father for that matter, you know, you might not take the extra risk to go from fourth to third. But when you've got an opportunity to win a race and keep your lead in the championship or what have you, you know, that I think a lot of that stuff goes out the window. Like, you know, the thing is too, people always say, well, oh, you know, they've got a kid and it's slowing them down and this and that. You know, you always have to, I always think to my dad and, you know, what he did, and he had kids, and it's just more mouths to feed, and you've got to make more money, and you've got to, the results are more, you need the results more than you do if you're by yourself.
Absolutely.
You got more to pay for, you know? So yeah, it's kind of, I think people react differently, but I think motorcycle racers, I think once they put their helmets on, you know, everybody's a young single guy, and, you know, everyone else be damned, we're going for it. So
yeah, I want to talk about, I was thinking about this before we did the podcast today, I don't know if we always officially award it or announce it, but I was thinking like, okay, who would be the rookie of the year? And then one of the riders that I never even considered is Danilo Petrucci. He's technically a rookie in our series, which is a little odd. So I obviously he would be hands down rookie of the year, but I hadn't really thought of him. I was thinking more of a couple guys. Richie Escalante, he's been fairly quiet this year, but he's sixth in the standings, and it is his first year for sure. He's doing okay, but he's actually also, Ashton Yates has done pretty well. I mean, especially lately. And you had pointed out in your report from Ridge that I think on Sunday, that was his first crash all year, Ashton, on that bike. So he's definitely salvaging the equipment that Scheibe Racing has to work with. But I don't know. I mean, Richie, Ashton, you know, would you even consider Danilo Petrucci a rookie?
no, I think when you come in with a resume like he's got,
You can't do it.
it just doesn't equate to being a
Right.
rookie.
Right.
You know, it'd be like, you know, if Valentino Rossi came over, would he be a rookie? I mean, it's like, you know, at some point you just have to, I think a true rookie, I mean, obviously Richie Escalante is a true rookie. He's moving up from class. I think he's doing really well, but I think he's also showing what a big jump it is, because his super sports success was, you know, unbelievable. A champion, and then, you know, runner up, and won a ton of races, and obviously was one of the two guys to beat in that championship. So yeah, I mean, he's a true rookie, and I think his results have been good, but I think he's also, they probably don't seem that good to him because he's probably a bit impatient, as most of those guys are. But I think if he, you know, he'll get things sorted out. He's just got to, you know, keep plugging away. But yeah, I would say that he would be, you know, he would be my top rookie in that class, as far as looking at what people have done based on their experience level.
And, you know, talking about that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team, it was such a bummer about Jake Lewis breaking his thumb. And it was a weird crash. You know, for hopefully the listeners have seen it. We've put it up on social media, or it's been on our Live Plus or any of our replays of the racing. But for him to come out of that breaking his left thumb seemed so odd to me. He looked like he was the right side of him, and he went like right across the track. And this seems to happen so often when these guys go down. They go in between bikes, and it always is like, well, that could have been a lot worse than it was. And I'm not trying to lighten the fact that he ended up with 2 broken bones in his thumb. That's bad enough, but it's just a bummer about him because, you know, he's such a good guy and a leader in that team. And, you know, it's they had to put David Anthony on the bike on Sunday and are planning to, you know, figure out what they're going to do for Laguna and haven't decided yet. I don't think, or maybe at least haven't announced it. But, you know, we're so happy that Jake is, you know, we've chronicled it before. He was on the couch and mowing his lawn or whatever. And, you know, he's full on now. And now he has this situation with the injury, but hopefully he'll be back sooner than later.
Yeah, he's a good guy to have in the series, and he'll be back. He's so low key and mellow. It's like he's not freaking out about anything. He's like, you know, it makes sense for me to come. He really likes Pittsburgh, you know, and he's always done well there. So
That's right.
I think you know, he can be satisfied to know that like he can just get himself healed up and start going to places that he really enjoys. He said he likes Laguna, obviously, but that's, you know, you got to take that out of the mix here. But let's talk a little bit about our young female racer that had quite the little weekend there in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I mean, she turned 15 on Friday, Kayla Yakov, and in some ways, I almost wish it wasn't her birthday. I don't know. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that she turned 15, but it was kind of interesting. She turned 15. She led the Sunday morning warm-up session and felt pretty good about that. And then she goes and wins the race on Sunday. And I thought, I mean, it's cool enough that it's 15-year-old and female and all that, but heck, she could have been, you know, she's barely 15, more 14 than anything. But what a delight, and absolutely beloved by everybody in the paddock, fans, riders in her own race class, as well as obviously as we saw the Superbike riders paid attention and loved the story about her. And it's not just because she's female. She's a terrific kid. I mean, she really is. And she loves the sport. She's so well-spoken, and she just has the whole package at such a young age that it really, aside from the fact that she's female, just somebody that age that's a road racer is a delight to see.
Yeah, she's awesome. I mean, I knew, you know, we had that press conference on Saturday, and I asked her about the bike because I'd kind of overheard her talking about the fact that she wasn't happy with the setup. You know, but you can tell I think she has a good understanding of what it takes, what the motorcycle needs and what she needs. And I think she's able to tell that to her crew, which, you know, for any 15-year-old, that's impressive. And I don't, boy, girl, whatever. It's like she's a pure motorcycle racer. She understands it. You can tell she has a sense of the history of the sport. And, you know, there's a reason that, you know, there's when you watch a few people win, like when Josh Hayes won, for example, this year, I mean, at VIR, I mean, there's certain people who win or do accomplish certain things, and everybody in the paddock is happy, even the guys they beat, or the girls they beat. And this was one of those moments where, you know, everybody knew it was coming. You know, we had that issue at Road Atlanta where she got docked and the victory was taken away from her. So we all knew it was capable. She was very capable of it, and that it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And it happened then. And I mean, what you know, I think she's 8 points away from being in the lead in the championship. And if you look at the results, I mean, she's racing at the front every week. This isn't some one-off, you know, it was, you know, hailing or it was raining or everybody else fell off I mean, this is what she does every race. She competes with these guys. And this time she basically went out and you know, she held her own for every single lap. Nothing was gifted to her, which is what I liked about this victory. And it's cool because, you know, the guys that were with her on the podium and in the press conference had nothing but nice things to say about her. And they said that, you know, that nothing could have changed the outcome. She was just better than them on that day. And that's kind of how you want somebody to get their first win. And she did that. And, you know, we'll go to Laguna Seca and she'll run at the front, and she'll run at the front for the rest of the year. And she's got as good a chance as being champion in that class as anybody else. So, you know, kudos to her. And obviously we love her because, you know, she is, like you said, she's very well spoken. She's very polite. She's willing to do any media stuff that we need her to do, and she enjoys it and she does a great job. So she's the full package.
Yeah, and on top of that, of course, there's the fact that she has she had crashed at Road Atlanta, I think it was, and she has a torn ACL and a torn MCL. So she has no stability in her leg and has a brace on it when she's not on the bike. And I ask her, like, how do you get your knee down? And she goes, I don't know, I just do it. And I think she just blocks it out of her mind and handles it. And she's going to have surgery at the end of the year to get that fixed, just like a football player would. And I know she's not running patterns or, out carrying a ball in a football field, but she's certainly exerting herself with a pretty significant injury in her leg and just is making that happen. So that's a kind of an asterisk or a footnote at the bottom of that she's riding injured and like it's not even injured at all. So it's she's tough too, I guess you could put it. So
yeah, and I mean, in closing, it's this season has just been so good in every class, and I don't know. I mean, I would tell everybody west of Ohio to make the trip to Laguna Seca, because if you haven't been there, it's a wonderful place. It's a great part of the world. The racetrack's awesome. The races are always good there. And, our championships, it's 11-point difference between first and second in the Superbike championship. It's just 2 points between 3 riders in the Junior Cup that we talked about. Stock 1000 has turned into a battle. I think 8 points between those guys there. It's just, and also, the baggers are back, which the popularity of those has just exploded. We've got the hooligans. It's just going to be, you hate to say that any one of our races is the crown jewel because we have so many that are so good, but Laguna Seca always ranks up there as a don't miss event. So I want to tell anybody that's even thinking about going to just get on their motorcycle or get in their car or truck and start driving, because it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's going to be something to look forward to. And like you said, with baggers and hooligan there, we're calling it a Moto Fest, and it sure is. I mean, there's a lot, all the championships are tight. Even in the ones that are only with us, like baggers and hooligan at certain rounds, but we're gonna have a good time there. It's my favorite place to go. It always has been. It's going to be awesome, and I'm excited too, Paul, because we saw what our main man Wayne Rainey did over at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and he's going to be there. I can't wait to see him, and of course I got to calm down on the questions I need to ask him about the jetting on that bike, because it was smoking pretty good, but he handled it well. And just the fact that he upshifted with his thumb and downshifted with the clutch hand. I mean, I don't know how he figured that out and made it work, but that was so cool. And, Schwantz and Doohan and Roberts and Danny Pedrosa and everybody was there on top of everybody else that we saw if you watched their feed or anything on our MotoAmerica TV. I mean, there were so many racers from all over the world, past, present, and future, motorcycle, car, everything else that were there. And man, it was a proud moment for us to see our president and that 3-time world champion Wayne Rainey making it happen like that. It was something to see.
Yeah, it's funny because there's so much of it on social media, and I could click on a video of him riding the bike now and I'd still get goosebumps.
Oh yeah.
It's really weird. I'm so happy for him, because I know that it was, I think it was something that he wanted to do for a long, long time, but just kind of always was like, oh, it's not possible. It's not this, it's not that. And I think he kept pushing it to the back of his mind, but it was always in the back of his mind. And then when he was able to do that stuff with the street bike and then Suzuka, I think that really hit him that like, hey, it would be possible for me to do it on my GP bike, which would blow away anything else that he's ever done. And he was able to pull that off. And I mean, that I know he was, I know it kept him busy, and I know it was on his mind a lot before he went. And I know there was a lot of people that helped him get to the point where he was able to do that. But I think it was just fantastic that he did do it, and it makes me proud of him, even more proud of him than I always am. So yeah.
So he'll be at Laguna at the track with a curve named after him, Rainey Curve, and he's obviously did so many great things at that track too. So he's going to be a conquering hero coming back in there as if he wasn't already. So it'd be great to see him there. That's another reason to come to Laguna Seca too. So we got lots of reasons to come there. And I think I want to mention too that I always want to put in a word about corner marshals. Some people think, oh, well, we're doing this because we're in desperate need of corner marshals. Well, we do need them, but we've always needed them. So, we're trying to help out as much as we can. And I'm going to do a story pretty soon with a testimonial from one of the guys that was a corner marshal up at Ridge. And I continue to say it's the best seat in the house. And we've got rounds coming up back this way. We're going to be at Brainerd. We're going to be at Pit Race, New Jersey, and Barber, and lots of chances to do corner marshaling. And there's some paid options as well. If you've never done it before, it would be volunteer, but they'll put you on the grid to help out with things. And it's just great to be part of it and join us. And there's a lot of camaraderie in our group, and you guys can be part of that too. So I just wanted to get that in as well. But Paul, I mean, we did it, just you and I, and we went through it, and we still had a lot to talk about, but we're gonna have to stop, I guess. So
yeah, and you've only got a week to do this, but if I was you, I would just be doing one arm curls with like 20-pound dumbbells in the left arm, because think how many people now are going to come up to you at Laguna Seca and say, let me see that goddamn tattoo.
Hey, did you have anybody, I didn't ask you this. I had a couple people come up to me at Ridge, and, they just said they would listen to podcasts and stuff. We always have that happen. And it's so cool when the fans do that, because it really reinforces that what we're doing, people are paying attention to. So I enjoyed that. Just somebody out of the blue came up to me, and it was just nice to have that. I know that happens to you quite a bit too. So,
well, it was funny because I made one guy laugh, because him and his buddies came up to me and he said, can I get my photo with you? And my response was, why?
Yeah, they did.
Right?
They made the same guys that did it with me. Yeah.
So I was like, what? They couldn't believe that I said that. But I honestly, I'm like, why the hell do you want a photo with me? But anyways, I posed for a photo, and it is cool that we have some listeners in there. The ones we have are truly into it, and they're into the series. They're into what we're doing. So it's cool. And we keep this thing going and get it to grow a little bit more. And it's fun to do. And it's always fun to talk with you, Sean. And
yeah. You too.
We'll get to Laguna Seca. We'll get stressed out and yell at each other again. So it'll be fun.
There you go. That's what it's all about. All right.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.